Welcome to Module 5 Content Management System. For this week's topic, we'll be talking about website development, content management system, and WordPress. Right? We do need to know the process of how to develop a website, and once we know it, it will be hard to build it from scratch, so you do want to use a CMS, which is a content management system. The next thing we want to learn about is um, WordPress, which is basically a content management system. For websites, you would see this most of the time you surf the internet. You would see a website with a logo, a company name, or organization name. You do see menus. You do see text, images, and other things that would let you interact with the website. So it could be a work of any individual or organization that they definitely have a purpose, right? A website can contain a hyperlink to any other website or a web page within a website, right? And as you can see in the slide, that a hyperlink might look like this, or something that would change the styling once you interact with your mouse with it. So, what are websites for? In general, you'd want them for informational, entertainment, e commerce, service based, and blogs. For informational website, the purpose is again to spread information, like how to's, tips and tricks, fix repair guidance, instructions, directions, and right now it's almost election day, so it's like you would have a lot of informational website to tell you how, when, and where to vote. Okay. For entertainment website, these are like magazines, gossips, celebrity news, sports, movies. So most of the time, the websites add a lot of videos, images, podcasts that make it more engaging to the audience, right, which is the user as well. E-commerce website has the purpose of selling products to the user. It provides them a platform through the internet so that they can display their products and have the consumer basically click and buy those products. Service-based website. I think there's a typo here that instead of sell products, it should be sell services to the user. You can also offer internet-based services such as, let's say, um, renting a computer, meaning going through a cloud service provider, renting a WordPress instance, and other services as well, right? So for blogs website, as the name says, it's basically blogging, and it's more informal and conversational style, right? We do have a lot of technical blogs as well that you can learn a lot, right? And it's usually maintained by a individual or a small group, right? So for the website development, we do have some process that you have to go through. This is same as like software development, where one is you do need to have the idea. Once you have the idea, you want to validate your idea and grab some information to define the goals and analyze your requirements. And you further, when once you have the requirements, you want to plan that out with strategies and planning. And if you can build a wireframe and a clickable prototype, then after you've done that, you go to the next step of web design, when you basically create a more beautiful layout that is closer to the field that you want to deploy. And once you have those ready, you can now start building your website. And these include HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code. And you can build it from scratch, but with content management system, it's easier to build the websites without knowing how to use those codes, right? As in any product or software we have out there, before we put it out there, we basically want to test them. So we do want to validate things that we want and make sure we lessen the errors as much as possible. And once we're good, or our criteria is met, we can now launch the website and maintain it through monitoring the website's performance and other functionality. So for information gathering, you may want to ask, what is the purpose of the website? What do you want to provide? Information, service, or product? Which type of product or information? What do you want to accomplish? Right? Do you want to make money or not? Do similar websites exist? So keep on validating that idea. And if the website exists, does it add value? Is it a value add to potential customers? And so on and so forth. For strategy and planning, we mentioned that you do want to create a requirements document, so you lay out and you planned out like which one do you want to prioritize, and you cannot just build everything right away and not have a priority level for each functionality. Next is you do want to create a wireframe of pages, meaning you can draft a layout. At the bare minimum, you can even create use a paper and have draw like boxes and show that this layout matches that layout, or this is the navigation, this is where the form would be, this is where the footer would be, right? And there's a lot of tools internet if you just search for free tools for wireframe such as Balsamic, Figma, and building the prototype is there's a lot of rapid prototype development software as well where you can quickly create a website prototype without even having to buy a name or deploy it, right? So that is good for showing a proof of concept. So website page structure is very useful when you're trying to build your website and you're troubleshooting or you want to build a new feature. This basically helps you know which part of the websites you need to fix or add a feature in. Let's say the top part is having some trouble, and as you can see, the top part is the header part, and it includes the navigation and other logos and homepage as well, right? And if you see the bottom part, something is wrong, you may want to search the internet for a footer type of question, right? For website design, there are four things. One is the web graphic design, where you want to have assets that are very beautiful, clear to the audience, such as having a good background image and make sure it's you're not copyright infringing. You have a logo. You do have like preset pictures that are good. Interface design is where you want to make sure that the interface or if your website makes sense to the user in such a way that an example would be, let's say there's a input form where you put your login information. You don't want to put a red button out there to say submit, because most of the time users would think that a red button denotes that it's delete or danger, right? So those kinds of like best practices, you want to put that in place. Next is for the user experience design that makes it for the ease of use of your website. For example, you do have an e-commerce, let's say like Amazon, right? You don't want to, let's say, have the user do 10 clicks before they even get to purchase their product. If you can reduce it to 2 clicks, that would be great for them, and they would love your website for that. Search engine optimization is basically making sure your code structure is good in such a way that the when someone searches the internet for something and it's relevant to you, it should your website should get more hits or make it more relevant, right? Um, Again, with content management system, you don't really need to know a lot of this as they already have a code structure layout well, right? When now coming to web development, as we mentioned before, we need to have HTML templates and CSS, and again, CMS would provide that. So for testing, functionality is the logic. When someone clicks submit, does it really send the information? If they want to retrieve an information, do they get that information? Usability testing, again, this is the testing where if it's the ease for the end user. Interface is does it make sense? Database is where our data is being stored and where it persists, and make sure that it does persist and it does integrate well um, with the compatibility set testing, right? Whenever you have a different software interacting with one another in plugins, you do want to do a compatibility testing. And the last one here is performance testing, where you make sure your server has enough memory to make sure that it can give you back a fast response, such as loading the web page very fast. And because on average, if a user has to wait maybe 2 or more seconds, like 5 seconds, they'll definitely don't want to visit your website again. So as we mentioned, we do want to launch and maintain. So if you build your own website, do need to deploy it on your own. But with a CMS, it's easier to just go live easily on your own. So CMS, again, as we mentioned, is a software application or related set of related programs that are used to create and manage digital content, right? So CMS usually already have a database and a set of templates, which makes it easier to build your pages, and also allows you to quickly do create, edit, and publish, and have a dashboard for you to create that. And basic features, you do have the content creation, content storage, workflow management, publishing. Again, if you're building your website on scratch, you have to build these as well, right? So a benefit of content management system, two things: cost effectivity, and ease of use. Right. It basically streamlines the process of developing your website. You can focus on the product or service or the purpose that you want to accomplish. Right. Instead of spending time to build the code. And this is very good for non-tech, so they can don't need to know the code and build a website. Also good for people who are starting in tech, so that they do know the big overview of how to build it without knowing how to code, right? It also can reduce website maintenance costs. Okay, examples of CMS, we have WordPress, Joomla, Drupal, and if you're in the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, you have the SharePoint and Shopify, which includes e-commerce right out of the box. And now we're gonna be talking about hosting. But first, when usually you go hit the URL, there's the name of the website. You do have the HTTP or the HTTPS, which is the secure, and both of those are protocols, which means that that's the protocol that we need to use to be able to send requests and responses. And we do have the subdomains, which is the www, the domain name. Most people would ask, what's your domain name? This is the domain name. It's something unique, something that you have purchased, right? The top level domain is the .com, and then nowadays there's a lot like .org and maybe .ph, .ca, and so on and so forth, right? So for domain name, you do need to buy them, right? And there are domain name providers such as GoDaddy, Bluehost, and Namecheap. And again, once you bought those name, that's the time you do want to attach them to your CMS. Okay, so another thing that we have to know aside from the domain name, so you purchase them from domain name providers, and most of the time these domain name providers also provide hosting services, right? So if you also go, let's say, to GoDaddy, you'll be able to host a website, meaning you place your WordPress instance there or your code there, so that now people can access it through the internet, right? You can also do this on your own local laptop or PC. However, you do have to have that computer up and running 24/7, and if your laptop crashes, your website would go down, and also you would basically open your ports, your local home internet to the outside world as well, which you don't want to. So now going back to web hosting, that's one of the purpose to isolate that. And again, these hosting providers provide you to one-click installs as well of your WordPress. So you do have your hosting server, and then now in the hosting server, once you purchase that, you also need to purchase a domain name, and then you now can install your CMS, right? Here's an example diagram where you build the website, right? This is your code or the CMS that you built. And then now you want to place it in a web hosting server from a web hosting server provider. So now it's now accessible through the internet. There's another diagram which is similar. You guys can just look at it. This other diagram, the 1 and 2 is basically the request from from a computer to the server. And the 3 and 4 is basically the response from the server back to the computer that's requesting it. So WordPress is an open source software, so you can basically create beautiful website, blogs, or app. You can download this software to your own machine and build a WordPress website, right? Um, and aside from that, it has a lot of flexibility to use themes, plugins, and other support options, right? To easily build and create, maintain. And here's the step by step to create a website for your own, right? You find a domain name for your site. If you're in this class, we already have created a domain name for you, and you don't also need to worry for number two about web hosting. But in any case you want to do this on your own, you want to buy the domain name first from a domain name provider. You do want to sign up for web hosting, and usually those domain name providers are also web hosting providers. And number three, usually in the dashboard of a web hosting provider, they give you a one-click install of a WordPress, so you can just click it, right, and pick a WordPress theme so you can work on something, especially if you're not a designer. Um, then you can start creating your pages and blog posts. And here's an example of a page. For example, this is using WordPress and the website layout. If you right click on anywhere using a Chrome, you can right click anywhere, click inspect, and you can see on the elements portion, you would see the HTML and the CSS. I didn't have to code this on my own as I'm using WordPress. Next is if I do want to access the dashboard, I can basically do a wp-admin, which is for WordPress. This is the admin dashboard. And I'm going to show you the dashboard right away because I don't want it to load very slow. And the dashboard can basically give you an admin page where you can edit your pages, your menus, your posts. If you're building your website from scratch, you may have to build this on your own to create this dashboard. But with the CMS, it gives you this functionality. So if I want to edit that homepage a while ago, it was here, and I'm using the Elementor plugin. The Elementor plugin allows me to easily edit my website with maybe drag and dropping. For example, I need to fix this, put it here, right? And maybe I need to add something here. And let's say, let me duplicate and copy that here, right? So I can do some edits. Let's say cache cycle at Angel Hack, right? You can do some preview here on the bottom part. You can click on different responsive mode, how it looks at the mobile tablet. When you're building your website from scratch, you have to make it responsive on your own. But with WordPress, it gives you that option. So click update, and if I want to see my changes, it's better to either log out to your admin, or again you can just open up in a private browsing mode so that you're not in admin page and the changes are there. So that's all for this week. If you do have any questions, please send us a message in MS Teams. Thank you, and have fun.